If you're here, you're probably a giver, a doer, and a wide open heart. You probably also have some perfectionist tendencies, or a lot of perfectionist tendencies, are struggling with indecision, and want to appear to the outside world as strong and capable, especially because it appears that there are many people that rely on you to be exactly that. You're probably also here because the pressure of this image is starting to make the walls close in. You're regularly overwhelmed. You feel chronically exhausted. You're swinging wildly between periods of insomnia and periods where you just can't get out of bed. If we were making a wish list and waving a magic wand, you probably need 12 more hours in every single day to hopefully accomplish everything on your never-ending to-do list. You'd do anything to get your energy back. And it'd be really great if you could figure out how everybody else seems to have these incredible relationships and the time and energy to enjoy their lives or their passions or their hobbies. You might have forgotten what passions and hobbies are. It's likely that you often find yourself in some kind of leadership position, even though you probably feel pretty unqualified to be leading. That people come to you for answers or to help solve their problems, even though you don't feel qualified to do that either, because you can't even figure your own life out. But people keep coming and you keep answering the call. You probably have this massive and immense capacity for caring and giving and loving that you may feel at this point in your life is being taken advantage of by many or everyone around you. At this point, you're chronically overwhelmed, you're exhausted, and you're numb. It's probably started to affect your productivity at work and in your personal life, but you've run out of the energy to care. As the saying goes, your give-a-damn's busted. And I know you promised yourself you were never going to watch another one of these things, because I know you're telling yourself right now that I'm probably going to tell you to meditate or recite affirmations in the mirror or stand on your head under the moon or just be more grateful or teach you how to magically cram more things into your day. I get it. I see you. I am you. I've lived all of that and I get it. And if I told you to try a bunch of things again that you've already tried that leave you feeling more stressed out and more frustrated and more anxious than when you started, that wouldn't be very productive, right? And if you're anything like I was, you already overloaded the plate that you started with and then collected some more plates and overloaded those too. So you definitely don't need more to do on your constantly growing list of things to do. So I'm going to share with you a little disclaimer. What we're going to do today, what I'm going to share with you today is actually so simple, takes so little time and so little energy, and is so freaking simple that you're going to be tempted to think that it can't possibly work. I get it. You're used to overloading yourself and overwhelming yourself and disciplining the hell out of yourself and forcing yourself through the motions. And you've been doing this for so long that it's going to feel really weird to just not. To do less. So now I have to ask you a really simple question. Are you ready to have what you've been chasing for all this time? That you couldn't really put the words to, other than the fact that you just didn't feel fulfilled or satisfied or joyful in your life, in your body, in your relationships? And are you ready to do less to get it? Great. Then you're in the right place. But just to be sure, because again, as a recovering overachiever, there are a few things that I dislike more than wasting my time. So I'm going to ask you some questions just to make absolutely certain that this training is worth your time and that you're in the right place. So I want you to grab a pen and paper because I do want you to write your answers down. We're going to tally them up at the end together. Go ahead, pen and paper, I'll wait. I don't want you to try to keep track of this in your head. They're yeses or nos, no multiple choice. I guess that is multiple choice. Okay, are you ready? Got your pen and paper. All right. Do you sometimes or often feel like it's nearly impossible to find the energy to do everything that needs doing in a day? Are you regularly feeling like people are taking advantage of the fact that you're a giver and an open heart? Do you feel an immense weight and pressure of people relying on you to show up as the conqueror and the strong, capable one? Yes or no? Do you struggle with making decisions and trusting that the decision you made is the right choice? This is a yes if you're chronically overthinking or researching. Do you find yourself often saying, what's the point? What's the point of any of this? It's hopeless. Are you swinging wildly between periods of not being able to sleep and not being able to get out of bed? Chronic exhaustion. Do you feel like you've always been kind of misunderstood? That nobody really gets you and understands you at your depth? Are you a people pleaser? Have you ever experienced a point in your life where you felt like you had to hide even just a little bit of your personality or your opinions to fit in with the others? Is your physical health beginning to fail you? Are you experiencing hormone imbalances, gut health issues, weight gain, weight loss, migraines, or chronic physical pain or chronic fatigue that nobody seems to be able to find the answers for? Are you struggling with your self-esteem and your confidence? Yes or no? Are you struggling with brain fog, constant distraction, inability to focus, difficulty concentrating? And last but not least, do you appear to have what everybody else seems to want? And you feel guilty or ashamed that you're not more grateful or fulfilled or satisfied by it? Tally up your answers, yeses and nos. If you've got more than 2 yeses on your paper, I have good news and I have better news. The good news is that none of those things is the real problem. Therefore, you don't have to run around and try to fix each one of those things individually. The better news is that this time we're going to share together today is going to help you go layers deeper to the actual root problem that's causing all those symptoms so that we can focus on solving that. See, already we're doing less instead of doing more and forcing ourselves through solving each one of these problems. We're already saving time. Sounds productive, right? By the way, I'm Beth Jones. My own black sheep life, outlier life, and journey through high functioning depression and chronic burnout first led me to building brick and mortar wellness centers and then into this coaching space. The methodology that I created gives my clients their time, energy, and vitality back and allows them to access a life experience that leaves them feeling incredibly fulfilled, satisfied, and dare I say, happy. This methodology was distilled through my own experience, through the tools and processes that I learned along the way, and through the processes that I've developed in my work with my clients. It involves some subconscious retraining, again, going layers deeper so we can solve the root problem instead of running around like chickens with our heads cut off, trying to solve all these surface level symptoms. Sound good? So let's tackle it, right? One of the things that we experience as givers and doers and wide open hearts is that in our immense capacity to give, we're sending the control of our lives away without realizing it. We're basing our schedules and our actions and our decisions on what other people need or want from us. So the very first piece of my program, and one of the reasons that my clients begin to experience massive positive transformation within the first week of our working together, is that the very first thing we do is learn the process to call all their power and their personal control back into their own bodies, minds, and spirits. How do we do this? We do this by shifting perspective. We do this by eliminating the need to focus on all of the things we can't control and turning it into focusing on all the things we actually can. We become observers in our own lives. We get back in touch with our own internal voice and our onboard navigation system. That's right, you came with OnStar and you didn't even know. And it's so powerful. Because one of the things that people pleasers and creators struggle with is that they're chronically misunderstood. They see the world completely differently than everyone else. They feel the world differently. They experience it differently. This is why they can see solutions where other people can only see problems. This is why they can build bridges where nobody else can figure out how to build them. It's why they're naturally great lovers and peacekeepers and problem solvers and leaders. I'm going to tell you about one of my clients, Sean, who was struggling with indecision when he first came to us. And he couldn't figure out what direction he wanted to go in his life. He was trying to make some big business decisions and he was confused and overwhelmed by all of it. And he was so overwhelmed, he'd kind of arrived at this place of paralysis. He was so scared of making the wrong decision that he wasn't making any decisions. And if you're an overachiever and a doer and a giver and a wide open heart, I can almost guarantee with absolute certainty that you also have a self-doubt problem. That's what's underneath all of this. The inability to trust yourself. Why is that? Because creators and innovators and doers are almost always opening themselves up to being questioned. Why do you see it that way? How can you possibly see it that way? How can you possibly believe what you believe? Because we just see it differently. But the thing is, over years or decades of hearing those questions, of having our perspectives attacked, whether gently or overtly, we begin to hide pieces of it. And the inner critic comes on. And if we couple that with some past bad decisions, which all of us make, by the way, we all have those, failures, perceived failures, or a toxic relationship where someone was constantly reminding you that of all your flaws and your not good enoughness, then it is the perfect storm for your inner critic to spiral completely out of control and for you to lose touch with your gut, with your intuition, with your onboard navigation system. We all have one. And the massive importance of being in tune with that is that that intuition, that voice in your gut and in your heart speaks from the highest and best version of ourselves. And there is no world that doesn't benefit from any of us being the highest and best versions of ourselves. When we're operating from that place, we make better decisions with more mental clarity. We make more sure decisions. We feel more confident in our decisions. We don't mind the critics because we know that the decision that we made is in line with our hearts. Immediately, what we did for Sean is establish the difference between when his inner critic was talking, this voice that's programmed from society, from our parents, from old partners, from old failures, about what we should and shouldn't be and what we can and can't achieve and we must and mustn't do. We established what happens in his body and brain and heart when that voice is talking. And then we showed him what happens when his gut and his intuition are talking, when the highest and best, most creative, clear place in his mind and his heart were talking. And we taught him how to navigate out of the inner critic place into this creator space, into the highest and best version of himself. And that he could manage that within a week, 1 week of working with us. All of a sudden, he felt wildly empowered. He felt much more confident. He felt much more able to trust his own voice and decisions. He didn't feel like he needed to validate his decisions or his choices or his behavior to anybody. In a week. And the journey was only just beginning. That's just the beginning. Because the next step of this process is acknowledging our own stories. Why is that important? Because I promise you, after years and decades of listening to this inner critic about feeling like you had to be somebody different than who you actually are to earn approval and validation and prove your worth and prove your value, whether personally or professionally or both, that you're having an identity crisis. Your brain is telling you that you have to appear and show up in the world as one thing. And your heart and your body are going, no, I'm not that. And I know it's true because I just got goosebumps and that happens every single time. That's where this disconnect is coming from. It's not that you're not good enough or capable enough or smart enough or brilliant enough or lovey enough or giving enough. It's that the person that you feel like you have to show up in the world as is not the same as the person you were designed to be. And the more time that passes, the larger that disconnect is going to get. The magic day does not come that those two things just start aligning. There's no easy button for that. There's a way, there's a process. This process is the one that I teach my clients throughout my method, that teaches them how to look at their whole past, the entire thing, not with the intent of finding a blame source or shaming anybody or judging anybody, including themselves, for what they did or didn't do in their past. A funny thing happens when we're placaters and people pleasers and desire to see the best in people. We take the knowledge and the information and the life experience we've gleaned from this present moment and project it onto the past. It happens all the time. And it is from that place, from that disconnect, right? This version of you right now isn't 5-year-old you. You have more information, more knowledge, and more life experience than 5-year-old you had. You have higher emotional IQ, whether you intended to have higher emotional IQ or not. So the way that 5-year-old you experienced what was going on in your home or your life and programmed all of that into your subconscious mind is not the same as the way you're processing it now. That's why I do this subconscious training. I'm a retrainer. We go back into the deep, deep layers and begin to meet the needs of past us. It's wild. It's an incredibly magical and massively impactful process. But when you begin to acknowledge your entire story without blame or shame or guilt or judgment, as an observer, you begin to know again who you truly are. Underneath all the layers, you begin to understand all the pieces and experience that shaped the you that's here today. And when you know your own story and can acknowledge your own story and get comfortable with your own story, then you begin to acknowledge and get comfortable with who you actually are. And it is only from that place that we can begin to grow in confidence for ourselves and our gifts and our strengths and our resilience. From the inside out, we're not relying on anybody to tell us this anymore. We're learning this and programming it into our hearts and deep into our minds. It's a completely different way of doing things. And it's unlike anything you've ever experienced, I promise. It's unbelievably effective. Because it's only from this place that we first can know our story without censorship and acknowledge our story, that we can begin to grow in love for ourselves, in confidence of ourselves, in the truest and most authentic version of who we are. That's the piece that people most often skip on the self-love, confidence, transformation journey. You can't love you until you know who you are. And I know you have an immense capacity for love, and I know you've been trying like hell to do it, but it won't work until you stop censoring who you really are. And in order to figure out who you really are, we have to acknowledge your whole story. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what your life would feel like if you could give yourself grace for the person in your past that made a decision that you don't agree with now, because you could acknowledge that past you, that past version of you, didn't have the same emotional IQ, the same life experience, or the same knowledge that today you has. This counts for career shortcomings, it counts for business failures. Whatever happened in that time isn't the person that you are right now. Grace, my love, grace. Wouldn't it be, and I wonder if you can imagine this. What if you could take the grace and the love and the understanding and the support and the patience that you so willingly and openly offer to others, personally, professionally, or both, and poured it into your own heart? What if you gave yourself the love and the support that you give everyone else? Mind-blowing, right? Isn't it unbelievable that we can so freely give this love to everybody but ourselves? That's really what this part of the process is about. It's learning to turn that inward, to give ourselves the grace and the love and the understanding and support that we have so freely given to everyone else for our whole lives. The third part of what we do is achieving more by doing less. And I know, as a perfectionist and as a hard worker and as someone who has been working their freaking ass off, pardon my language, kind of, to get here, to get to the level of success that you're experiencing now, or to pay off all the debt, or to buy the nice house and the nice car and support the kids and all the things, that doing less probably sounds lazy. If you're anything like I used to be, when people said work smarter, not harder, it like made me cringe. Because I'm like, hard work is the way. That's how we do it. It's the dues we have to pay. And it's partially correct. Because we do need discipline. We're not always going to be inspired. So we do need some kind of discipline and structure. We can't always be free-flowing and just going wherever the moment takes us. So the point is finding a balance between those things. That we have this discipline and motivation and force over here, and we have the flow and the ease and the clarity and the spaciousness that allows us to be the best versions of ourselves, and we balance them together. If we work from a place of all discipline and all force and all motivation, we get to a point where we're burnt out and overwhelmed and exhausted. Sound familiar? And nothing productive is happening in that space. It's all force. Our brain's not working properly. Our body's not working properly. We're not getting enough rest. We're not getting enough help. We're not getting enough support. And everything is so freaking hard all the time. If we have too much flow and spaciousness and go with the wind, then we're in stagnation. And that doesn't feel good to people like you and me either. Balance. This balance comes when we have clarity on who we are. Because then we no longer have to run all over the planet trying to prove our value and our worth. We no longer have to spend all of our time chronically overthinking about validating our decisions or our actions. We no longer have to spend hours and a ton of mental and emotional energy overthinking our next decision because we've learned to trust ourselves. When we develop clarity on who we are, we can also develop clarity what we actually want and what we don't. And when we couple that with the acknowledgement and love and understanding of who we are, then boundaries become effortless. Because we know who we are, we know what we deserve, and we know what we want. So now staying in alignment with those things becomes very easy. Boundaries don't have to be ugly. They don't have to be enforced with anger and an iron fist. When you arrive at this place, you can implement boundaries by simply saying, I'm not the right fit for that. That's not the right fit for me. And you can make transitions out of the things that aren't right for you without creating a bunch of tumult, without creating a bunch of conflict. Now, keep in mind, we can't ever control what the other person or persons on the other end of the equation do or behave like. But we can control us, right? And that was what we were talking about at the beginning, this concept of putting you back in the driver's seat of your own freaking life. I know that you've been trying to regain control over so many things for so long that you're exhausted. This is how you get back in the driver's seat. And it happens in the first week of the program, right? This shift from only being able to see all the things you can't actually control and trying like hell to control all of those, and turning that transformation process inward and focusing on the things you can control. Which, by the way, is in about a 6-foot bubble around you. So my personal coach often calls that the bubble of sovereignty. This is my space. I get to choose what happens in it, who's in it, in any given moment. And you also have that power. I get to control the energy that's in this space. I get to control what I allow to influence this space. This is mine. And you can have it too. You actually already have one, right? We just need to build your confidence and clarity so that you feel more in control of it and you know where those boundaries are. So I want to talk for a minute about my client, Ashley. Ashley, who, by the way, is freaking stunning and seemed to have it all together professionally, right? She had the big house, she had the fancy car, she had, 2.5 kids and a golden retriever. From the looks of it, everything was picture perfect. Except it wasn't. And I could tell that she was hesitant to tell me about her life. And as we got into our conversation, I learned that the reason she was hesitant to tell me is because everybody had tried to shame her into gratitude. Anytime she had finally broken to the point where she would open up about this disconnection and this unhappiness and lack of fulfillment she had in her life, people looked at her like she was insane. She should be more grateful that she has all of these things that everybody wants, that everybody works their ass off for their whole lives. And she said to me, I totally get it if you don't understand. And I said, no, you're in the right place. I get it. I do get it. And this is a struggle that often creators and innovators have. People pleasers, overachievers, right? We spend all this time checking all these boxes, trying to prove our value and our worth and earn this level of success that everybody else wants. And that part of us wants too, right? But something still isn't right. And it's because we had to pretend to be somebody else than other than who we authentically and innately are to get there. It's because of our desire to be viewed as strong and capable. It's because of our resistance to help and support, because the very last things that we want in the whole world is to be a burden to somebody else or to feel like a burden to somebody else or to feel pitied. We are not to be pitied, right? Isn't that just makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up? She was on supplements. She's gone to a hormone specialist. She was dutifully waking up at 5 a.m. every day, going for a 3-mile run. She had epic lists of restrictions. What she could and couldn't eat, when she could and couldn't eat, which often restricted her social environment, right? Because she also didn't want to be tempted into perhaps breaking these rules and restrictions she'd set for herself. She spent hours picking out the perfect makeup and making sure her hair and her makeup were proper. On a rare day that she didn't do that because she wasn't leaving the house, she used all the filters on social media, all of them, anyone that was available to her. She admitted that she'd actually been contemplating getting the fat sucked out of her hips and put into her cheeks. And she said, I just don't get it. I've been trying so hard for so long to feel good about myself. And I just don't. I don't know what else to do. Like it takes me 3 hours to get ready to go to the grocery store because I refuse to be seen without my hair and my makeup and my outfit. People expect that of me. And I'm terrified what they'd think if they saw me without it. And I asked her, I said, well, what do you think it would take for you to feel good about yourself? And she thought about that for almost a whole minute before she finally said, I don't know. Ashley was caught up in the very same cycle that many of us get caught up in all kinds of different realms. We're so busy trying to perform and be what everybody else tells us we should be that we don't even know what we actually want. We don't know what will make us feel good. So Ashley and I worked together on exactly the same things I was just talking about, figuring out who she really is so that she could figure out what she actually wanted and go do that. And oh, by the way, none of that had anything to do with physical appearance, with changes that she needed to make in her physical body. It was an internal makeover she needed. It was the ability to see herself the way other people saw her that she didn't understand. And when we shifted that perspective and started filling her cup from the inside out, everything changed. She's still a runner. She still likes to run, but now she actually enjoys running because she doesn't feel obligated. She doesn't feel the pressure. It's not force and discipline. It's flow and enjoyment. I'm not trying to change who you are as a person. That's not what this is about. Sometimes when I talk about subconscious rewiring, people get the wrong idea, like I'm going to brainwash you into being a completely different person. And that's not how it works. The good things stay. The good things always stay. That's the beautiful part about it. So now that we've kind of talked about where all these deep roots are and what symptoms they're causing in your life. Let's discuss how you got here. This is really important. So, if you are a doer and a giver and a wide open heart, or an overachiever and a perfectionist, constantly worried about what other people think about what you're thinking or feeling or doing, then you probably have a superpower. And this superpower is your ability to read the room in a way that nobody else can. You can see what other people are feeling before they even feel it sometimes. You can sense changes in energy. You're constantly checking in with the world around you. You may have heard the term empath at some point. Highly sensitive person in terms of energy, not emotions necessarily. People talk about this like it's an innate gift, like it's something that we were just born with. And we're tempted to believe it because it's pretty much all we've ever known. We can't really imagine a time when we didn't have that ability. But what you probably didn't know is that was actually a coping and defense and survival mechanism that probably goes way back further in your past than you think. It typically comes from an absent parent, either physically or emotionally, an abusive or toxic situation, whether that's in your adult life or your childhood life or both. It could come from an environment with exceedingly high expectations. Because what happens in all of these environments is that, one, we're often left alone to solve our own problems. We often go through the hardest parts of our life navigating them by ourselves. So we come by this fierce independence very honestly. It also requires us to tune in to things that nobody else is tuned into to prevent disaster or to earn that little glimmer of approval that slid across somebody's face. Because they may not have voiced it out loud. They may not have been able to say, "I'm proud of you," or "You did a great job," but you may have seen that little glimmer of satisfaction or approval on their face. So we're constantly looking to others to read what they're feeling and experiencing. And we internalize that as worth. And that's what causes this need for people pleasing, for constantly reading the room, for being hyper aware of everybody's energy and surroundings. And the very detrimental thing that happens also is that if this supernatural power that you have is born from those instances, then you're likely more able to tune in to negative energy, shifts for the worse that are happening around you, and less likely actually to be able to see the good stuff, to see the nods of approval and the appreciation and the satisfaction that other people have with a job well done. And we establish this ability from a need to prevent disaster, right? We know when a certain person behaves in a certain way that they're angry and they're on the edge of an explosion. So we have to do something nice or get out of the way or just try to mitigate the issue any way we can. It's a coping mechanism. It's a survival skill. And if you learn nothing else from this training, then I hope you carry that with you. Because that's a really important thing to be aware of. In any case, when we're constantly attuned with the feelings and emotions and energy of the people around us, it can drastically change what's going on in our own energy house, what's going on in our own emotions and thoughts and feelings, right? Because the minute that we sense that something's not okay with somebody, all of a sudden our inner critic kicks on. What did I do? Maybe I said something. Do I need to apologize? And we go on this whole tailspin because we've made it about us. And we have no idea if it's about us or not. But now it's impacted 15, 20 minutes, hours, days of our lives thinking about this interaction that we've had with somebody that clearly wasn't okay. Well, it could be that Joe, the cashier at the gas station, has a newborn at home and hasn't slept in 4 days. And that's why he was a little short with you. It could be that Cindy at the office is having marital issues. And that's why she's not as chatty. But if we're constantly attuned with what's going on with people's energies, but we're afraid to ask because we're afraid it's about us, then we turn it inward anyway. And we make it mean something about us that it doesn't. It often doesn't. I will even go as far to say as it rarely has anything to do with us. But we're so used to being in tune and realizing things nobody else realizes that we create problems sometimes where problems don't exist. Powerful, right? Okay, so let's recap. So we've covered a lot of ground here, right? And it may have been, it often is, some pretty mind-blowing stuff, some things that you may have been feeling but didn't have the words for. I hope that's the case. If for no other reason than to have provided you some clarity, even if you don't have a path forward yet. So the first step is to activate your own power, to draw all your power back in and to figure out how to distinguish between your inner critic, that voice in your head that's programmed by outside forces in the world, and your true intuition, your gut, the best and highest version of who you are, your onboard navigation system. So that you turn your perspective inward and start spending energy on the things that you actually can control instead of spending a ton of energy and emotional resources on things that you can't. Step 2 is to acknowledge your story. To learn who intimately and with clarity you actually are. Who the best and highest version of you actually is, what you are designed for. Because that will lead you to your purpose on this planet. And I guarantee you that life changes when you start living in alignment with that purpose. It doesn't necessarily mean you change careers. It doesn't necessarily mean you build a new business. It means that you're operating from a completely different place. You're filling your own cup from the inside out. And you don't need to chase validation. You don't need anybody to tell you that you're worthy and you're deserving and capable, because you know innately that you are. Because you are. And I will take this moment to remind you that you are worthy and deserving and capable, my darling, even in the moments when it feels like you're not. You are worthy and deserving of the immense love and support and understanding that you pour into everybody else on this planet. And it is time for you to pour that back into yourself. So we acknowledge our own story and we get really clear on who we actually are, what we need, and what we actually want, so we can do that. And then we achieve more by doing less. And we're able to do that because we are channeling our mental, financial, time, energetic and emotional resources into a life experience we actually want to be living instead of what everybody else tells us we should be living, we should want. We stop filling our calendars with things that other people say we need to do or should be doing. We work in alignment with our gifts and our strengths, and we acknowledge that everyone has flaws and weaknesses, and that we don't need to spend our entire existence trying to figure out how to cover them up. If you're anything like me, you deeply value authenticity and realness. And it was a sucker punch to my gut the day that I realized that this thing that I so desperately wanted from other people, this authenticity and this realness and this vulnerability, was something that I was really hesitant to offer people. Not out of intention, because I felt like they needed me to be this other version of me for me to earn approval and worth and value. It wasn't true. And it kept me from experiencing relationships at the depth that I really craved, that I really wanted. But this is how we get there. This is how we get to achieving more by doing less. We stop chasing our tails. We stop chasing a rabbit we're never going to catch. We stop moving the goalposts on ourselves and are able to celebrate and acknowledge our success and the things we are achieving, instead of only focusing on all the things we're not. So let's talk about how this method actually works. What does it mean? What does it do? How long is it? How long is this going to take me? Right? First, allow me to be clear. This is not a DIY program. We're not going to send you a book and leave you to your own devices. If you're anything like me, you already have all the books. You don't need more information. This is operating on a much deeper level. Are there lessons that you will take in and activate on your own time? Yes. Are there worksheets and a little bit of homework and check-ins so that I can understand that you're moving in the right direction and identify any challenges or resistance that might be coming up for you, so we can keep you moving along this path that you desire to be on, to where you actually want to go? This is not just a how-to, right? One of the things that we do, and that we do really well, because I am who I am and I don't like to be told what to do, is that we're not really telling you what to do. We're teaching you the how. And the how is really powerful, because then you can use it forever. You'll always have lifetime access to all the modules and the lessons and the worksheets and the action plans. You'll have access to all of that forever. So you can always go back when you're future you with a completely different perspective and learn it all again from this future place. But we're teaching the how. And as we're teaching the how, it's really important for us to make sure that the process is working for you and is working in alignment with what you need. Because I'm going to tell you a secret. All of the answers, all of the things that you've been wishing somebody would say to you or do for you, or the love and understanding and support that you desire in your life, is already in your heart. And you are the only one who will ever know with maximum clarity the way that you experienced an event or a person or something that happened in your life experience. There's only one you. Your perspective is unique. Your emotions are unique. The way you viewed that event was unique. And so you no longer need to spend hours and hours and hours of time trying to explain exactly how you felt and exactly what a certain moment was like and what everybody else was doing and what the room smelled like and what was going on. We don't need to repeat that. This is where my methodology is very, very different from therapy, because I don't need to understand the intricate details of the event. I want to understand the wounds that it caused so that we can figure out how to navigate those. You have that experience and you're the one that can understand it the best. And the answers on exactly what you need and exactly what you need to hear and the best solution to move past it already belong to you. You already have all those answers. You just don't trust them. My job is to ask better questions, to help you find those answers, to shine a light and show you where to look, to give you a snack along the way, to love and support the hell out of you while you're navigating these things. And again, there's plenty of how-to tips, which as a creator and an innovator and a giver and a doer, you are going to shape in the way that works best for you, which is perfect. That's exactly what you should be doing, because you are you. And the things that I need and the things that you need may be very similar, but they're still different, right? So we're going to tweak them a little bit. And that's why we have one-on-one support. We have these weekly check-ins that it's just you and me, so I can understand where you are, what your celebrations for the week are, and what resistance might be coming up for you, so I can help you through it. I've also, and this one's really interesting, especially if you, like me, have felt misunderstood, like an outlier, like a black sheep your whole life. I built a tribe of black sheep. We're all here. We all hang out together once a week. Right now, once a week for 60 or 90 minutes. These are small group live calls. So we all dial in together. The beauty of this is that you get live real-time support. So if there's resistance or challenges to specific processes, we can identify it and solve the problem immediately before you maybe keep going in a bit of the wrong direction, so we can make sure that your compass is working properly. But you also get to build relationships with people that you didn't think existed. People like you and me. People who experience the world in a completely different way. And let me tell you, those conversations are amazing. We have a great time together. We feel a lot of deep feelings together. We solve a lot of problems together. Those calls, again, they're group calls because I want you to have peer support from people that are on the same journey at the same pace you are, but also people that have started the work already because they have their own unique perspective. They're also love leaders and creators. We're all together, right? So we all have incredible listening skills, but love and understanding, so we can provide accountability to each other. It's an incredible container to be in. So again, right now, there's one of those a week that's 60 to 90 minutes to make sure everybody gets what they need out of those calls. If at any point we need to add another support call to make sure that we have enough time so everybody gets what they need, we'll do that. Easy day, right? No trouble at all. So if this sounds like something that you need, it sounds like the solution that you've been desperately hoping for. I wish there had been one when I was going through it all. The process is pretty easy. There's a link below or next to this video with a little form and my call calendar. So it's just a quick 3-minute form. It helps me understand where we're starting. what you have going on, some kind of self-identifiers, what you're experiencing in your life right now. So I'm at least a little caught up before we get on the phone together so we can use our time most productively. And then, of course, a link to my call calendar so that you can select a time that works best for you. I want to be clear that these are not sales calls. It's an epiphany call. It doesn't do anybody any good to offer you a program until I'm absolutely abundantly sure that this is that this methodology is going to take you where you want to go. Right? I know that you've already tried a million things. You may have spent a ton of money on what you thought was the right solution. You may have spent years and tens of thousands of dollars in therapy. You've probably at this point, like many of my clients, spent tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions of dollars on avoidance behaviors, on shopping addictions, on travel, on plastic surgery, on doctors and specialists to try to find answers that you never actually found, on divorce, on books, on do-it-yourself programs. I know. Ask me how I know. Remember, I'm one of you. I get it. So it doesn't do me any good to offer you something until I'm sure that it's going to work for you. Myself and my team work really, really well with a certain kind of person, with a certain kind of blocks at a certain place in their lives. And I am not interested in being another notch on the bedpost of things that failed you. Otherwise, I would just put a buy now link below this video and we'd save ourselves all the time on a call. But I do not invite people into this methodology and into this sphere and into this circle until I'm absolutely sure that they're going to get the results that they're looking for, that they're going to get with 100% certainty where they want to go. That is the intention of the call. Sometimes my methodology and my circle and access to all of this is the right fit. And if that's the case, then I will absolutely invite you to join us with open arms. And I will be tickled to death about it because I love it when our tribe grows. And everybody else looks forward to it too. They get so excited because they know the life changes that are coming for the new people that join us every week. If I'm not the right fit, then that's okay. Worst case scenario, you and I spend an hour together developing clarity. And you leave the call with more clarity and understanding of what you desire and what you need than you started with. It's immensely valuable. Myself and my team are always here to schedule these conversations because we want to know what the next best step is for you, and we want to help you identify that. That's why we do these calls. So again, if you're the right fit, I will 100% invite you to join us. If you're not, I have a whole network of incredibly brilliant humans and colleagues and my own mindset mentors and my own coaches that may be better served to help you from where you are right now to where you want to go. And we will figure out what that is together. So this is it. It's time. Are you actually as ready to have what you want as you say you are? Because there's nothing subtle about the changes that are coming for you. There's nothing small about this transformation. It is all-encompassing and forever life-altering in ways that you cannot even imagine right now. And if you'd like to explore, if this is what will get you there, if this will finally unlock this disconnection and this dissatisfaction and this struggle and hopelessness in your current life experience, then I am ready to talk to you. I look forward to it. It's time. You deserve the love and support that you pour into others. I'll talk to you then.